Welcome to Living in Grand Rapids, the podcast. I am Josh May.
I am Katie Arnold.
And I'm Ross Bacon.
And we are three of the May Group Realtors with Remax of Grand Rapids coming to you today with another edition of Living in Grand Rapids. How'd you guys like that one?
It's improving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring the energy.
Well, I'm excited about this because we've got a special episode today. Special episode. We're going to talk about why and all the excitement that is included with relocating to Grand Rapids and why somebody would want to do that. We've lived here. We're immersed in this community. We can talk about anything and everything as it relates to Grand Rapids. But hey, let's just have this be a nice, open dialogue today, right? We don't have a bunch of bullet points. We don't have a bunch of scripts. We know this community, and we're going to talk about what we absolutely love. So I think that, maybe we should kick it off with the geography of Grand Rapids. How about that?
Go with that. I think that there's, this could drag out into multiple episodes as why it would be a good idea to move to Grand Rapids. But let's start and let's see what happens. Let's see where it goes. Okay. Let's talk about geography. Why is that the first starting point?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the reasons it's the first starting point, because you guys may or may not have known this. My major in college was geography.
I think you've announced that on the podcast before.
Yeah. Okay. Just
want city planning. And city planning.
So for the listeners, I have a degree in city and regional planning, which I can 100% appreciate how the city is laid out and how all the surrounding communities are laid out. Grand Rapids is a very easy place to navigate, right? The city itself is divided into four quarters. You've got the Northeast, you've got the Northwest, you've got the Southeast, you've got the Southwest. And then all of your communities are in a circular motion around the city of Grand Rapids. We've got a great freeway system with 131 and 96 intersecting the city. And then you've got M6 headed to the south. For me, I very rarely run into traffic issues in Grand Rapids and West Michigan, which is amazing to me. You go to some other areas, you go to some other metro areas, and you are having to, build this additional drive time into your schedule because of traffic. And I love the convenience factor of Grand Rapids as a community, like just the navigability.
No.
Word is navigability.
I don't think that's a word, but I get where you're going with it. I think that's a great point. I think, when I talk to clients moving here who've never been here, one of the first things I bring up is especially people moving from major metropolitan areas such as, like in California, Chicago, heck, even Detroit. The biggest thing and great selling point is lack of traffic. We do not have a rush hour traffic, especially since they made those repairs right there at the Beltline on 96. It flows so much smoother now. And even if there is traffic, it's at least always moving. There's not bumper to bumper traffic. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunity if you're considering moving to the city, because, a lot of people's, especially in the Chicago area, your commute could easily be an hour and you only live 10 miles away, or heck, even 5 miles away. It takes a long time. Here you have that ability to, expand your search, expand where you want to live, and still make it into town or a concert or a night out very, very conveniently and easy.
Yeah. Well, and I can piggyback off of that because having lived in the Los Angeles area, I remember living 7 miles away from my job and it taking 2.5 hours for me to get home from work one night. And that was the evening that I told my roommate I was moving because I couldn't keep doing that. And living in Grand Rapids, you might run into a little bit more traffic during everyone's normal commute hours, but you're not really hitting rush hour traffic as that you would expect for a city. And so I do think that is a huge bonus, is to just really be able to kind of get wherever you want to go without hitting a ton of traffic. And if
Right.
you hit traffic, there's probably like a good reason for it.
So let me also just say Grand Rapids is the second largest metropolitan area in the state of Michigan, which is amazing. But what I hear from a lot of people all the time is how cool is it to live in a large community like this, but just be 30 minutes away from Lake Michigan, one of the greatest natural resources in the country, in the world, some of the most beautiful beaches, just sand dunes and luxury leisure, whatever you need. It is right around the corner from Grand Rapids. So another highlight of the navigability.
I think
Are we
just
making
coined
this
new
a
term.
thing?
I think it's becoming a thing this episode.
The navigability of our community. We've talked about, the location, the city, how it's set up. Why don't we talk about, some of the other major industries that have chosen to, have their footprint here in the West Michigan community that are creating jobs for people, that have supported, Grand Rapids as a whole. Ross, why don't you kick us off?
There's a lot that I think a lot of people are not aware of how much is actually located here in the Grand Rapids area. Fun fact, Grand Rapids used to be considered the furniture capital of the world. And a lot of famous furniture has been made here, and a lot of famous furniture continues to be made here. You've got Steelcase with their office furniture. You've got Herman Miller, who makes the probably, in my opinion, one of the most famous chairs ever. The Eames chair. So both of those are manufactured. They're made here. They have their headquartered here. And just getting outside of furniture, I mean, Amway employs a lot of employees. You've got Bissell Vacuums, Wolverine, Shoemakers, and apparel. Meyer,
Wow, the healthcare.
and just not to mention
Yeah.
the massive healthcare network that we have here. So as far as industry goes, I mean, we pretty much have something for everybody.
We do. As far as healthcare goes, we've got over 10 hospitals, in Grand Rapids. You've got U of M Hospital is now here. You've got St. Mary's downtown. You got Mercy Health. You've got Spectrum Health. You've got 10 hospitals in the area. And let's not forget the universities in the area. Grand Rapids is home to 15 colleges and universities, and which I think is great for the economy here, because when you have a student population base that's that large, a lot of people want to stay and support the community. It's great for the community to have that many people, have that many students here. It's a great for jobs as far as professors and staff. And so that's another big piece of Grand Rapids. You think of Grand Valley State University, that's made such an impact on this community. They've moved, a large part of their campus right downtown, their business school right downtown. They've got their engineering school right downtown. You've got their nursing school right downtown. So they have made extreme efforts in supporting the community. So that is some talk about local businesses, employers. Katie, do you have anything else to add to that, or should we move on, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great segue into the fact that Grand Rapids is Beer City, USA.
Right.
So you've got all these breweries, microbreweries, which is also a great place for people to work, to go to happy hour, to have a good time, to socialize. So there's so many great breweries and microbreweries and restaurants. Like, the food in Grand Rapids is so good, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
And
the perfect size city. It's the perfect size city as far as, getting around. You get the conveniences of a major city without the inconveniences of living in a major city. Easy to get around, but there's always something to do in the area and in the city, that you're never feeling like you're living in a small town when you're bored and with nothing to do.
Right. Well, it just another fact here for everybody. I mean, there's over 40 breweries in the Beer City area. And the reason why we were named Beer City Beer City USA, some people may or may not know this, but we're usually in competition with Asheville, North Carolina. Apparently they have a lot of microbreweries also, but I think we go back and forth with who is the reigning champion of Beer City USA. I know Grand Rapids has won a couple times. But outside of breweries, what you also see, what Katie was mentioning, is all these incredible farm to table restaurants. I feel like Grand Rapids is underrated as far as the food quality, the restaurant quality. Grand Rapids does a really good job of like supporting local farmers and making that a good part of their business. I'm just thinking about all the great restaurants. I'm hungry right now. So thinking about all the great food I've had. So the food, the entertainment industry, the beer industry, just a great part of this city for sure.
I think we cannot wrap up an episode with this topic and call ourselves realtors if we don't talk about the affordability of the city.
Right. Now I love that piece, Ross. Can we end with affordability, but can we sneak one more thing in there before
I'll allow it.
do that?
Yes.
You'll allow it. So we'll end with affordability, but I want to talk about community involvement before we end with affordability. So the cool thing about this community and what I've always loved is the opportunities to get involved. And we're actually a top ranking region in the country for philanthropy. We have above the national average in hours spent as far as volunteering goes. There's tons of organizations to be involved in as far as like the Heart of West Michigan United Way, Kids Food Basket, Holland Rescue Mission. The list goes on and on. But what I've always loved about this community is no matter where you're at in your life, there is always a place for you to be involved in the community. There is a ton of generous people in this community. And I've loved the philanthropic side of Grand Rapids. Ross, now we can talk about affordability. What do we got?
It's an extremely affordable city.
From
From a housing standpoint, compared to the national average, we're still a very affordable city to live in. Granted, inventory is very low. It's been a very competitive market over the past few years, but at the end of the day, this is still a very affordable city. We kind of have everything a large city has to offer at an affordable price. Kind of sounds like an infomercial, but it's true.
Right.
It's where else can you go and get a 3-4 bedroom house under $400,000,
right?
And still have a 5-10 minute commute to work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's very affordable. We've ended up on plenty of lists of like top 10 most affordable places to live in the country. Grand Rapids is always ending up on these lists, like top places to raise a family. Affordability index is great here, so a great place to be.
Absolutely.
Gosh, you know what? Maybe we should do another segment eventually, because I could keep going. I could just keep going if you want me to. But
there's a lot we haven't talked about. We didn't even talk about transportation.
Yeah, I mean, let's tease our listeners for a part 2 of this episode. I'll build it into our schedule. We can definitely talk about more reasons and I think we have seen a lot of people especially over the last few years that have been relocating to Grand Rapids. We've worked with many different clients that have been relocating to Grand Rapids for different jobs that have brought them here or whatever reasons have brought them here. And so I'm going to take this moment to just like plug the fact that we have a relocation guide that we've made for people. So if people are considering relocating to Grand Rapids, or they have friends or family that are considering relocating, or maybe they're trying to throw some friendly propaganda towards their friends and family to get them to move to Grand Rapids, this is a great episode to share, to start to convince them. And if they want a copy of that relocation guide, to check the link in the show notes and reach out to our team. We're happy to share that kind of information, because our team
they don't have to buy a house from us to get their hands on that.
They don't.
It's free.
We would happily help them buy a house, but no, it's a totally free resource that we've created because our team loves Grand Rapids, and we want to help people love Grand Rapids as well.
Call today for your free brochure.
I think that's amazing. And I'm serious. Let's do episode 2. And I'm going to tease the listeners with some other hot topics that we did not discuss today. Okay. So some of the things we didn't get into is like the sports and the leisure and the active pieces of Grand Rapids.
Music.
We didn't talk about the music and the culture and the entertainment so much. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a little bit more of schools and how Grand Rapids ranks from an educational standpoint. And then I do want to talk about our multicultural resources. That is one thing that Grand Rapids, I believe, does really well as far as providing, an avenue in the community for all race, ethnicities, and sexual orientation. There's numerous organizations to help people relocate into town. So I think we've got some really great things to talk about in segment 2, right, guys?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
coming soon.
I knew it was going to happen. Once you start talking about the city we love, how can you stop in 10 minutes? Just can't happen, right? So we hope you guys enjoyed this. And, after you've got to Grand Rapids, enjoyed some of the things that we've discussed today, we will let you get back to living in Grand Rapids. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Living in Grand Rapids, the podcast. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. You can find us on Instagram at MayGroupGR or online at marketgrandrapids.com.